All right, and we are live. Hello, Internet.
Hello, guys.
I just want to introduce ourselves. First of all, welcome to the inaugural live stream on this YouTube channel or Facebook. I'm not sure where you may be watching this from, but my name is Tony Nagatani, and I am the curator of the Sign Cosign Tangent blog, which is basically a place on the internet where you may go to read my various thoughts about many different topics, including geeky, fun stuff, and maybe some sports content, definitely some cooking content in the future, kind of just a hodgepodge of my very diverse array of interests. And today is the first day we've ever done a live stream. And so I thought it would be very cool to have on my very good friend, Kenny Mittleider, who is say hey, Kenny.
Hey guys.
Kenny and I have been friends for a number of years, friends and coworkers for I don't know, five or 6 years ago now that we met. And we are both mutual super nerds, loving Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, and in this case DC. And today, on this inaugural live stream, I kind of wanted to get together to talk about something very cool, which just came out last week on HBOMax, which is the Justice League Snyder Cut. But before we get into that, Kenny, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell everyone who's watching all about yourself.
As Tony said, we've known each other for several years. We work on many TV shows together. And as he also said, I'm a huge nerd. I actually am a podcaster myself. I've never done a live broadcast. I was telling Tony earlier that I am actually got butterflies. I've been podcasting for like 14 years. So I'm used to recording my voice and I'm used to talking and discussing topics and nerdy things. But I've never done a live version of it. And it's also video, which is much different than an audio podcast. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited. Thank you for choosing me to be your first guest on your new endeavor here. It's going to be fantastic. And I can't wait to discuss this movie because, I'm a huge Superman fan.
Yep.
I'm a huge Justice League. I loved DC before Marvel came out. I'm a huge Marvel fan now, but I always loved DC beforehand. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Very, very cool. Well, let's get right into the conversation. So, but before we get into talking about a little bit, I guess, about the plot of Justice League, how did you first become introduced to DC Universe from comic books in general?
Oh, it was comic books. It was when I was a little kid. I used to collect Wonder Woman, Superman, Aquaman. Those are my three favorite comic books. Actually, you know what? Before that, it was actually Super Friends, the cartoon.
Oh, wow. The cartoon.
That's what really in the 70s.
Gotcha.
So I'm a child of the 70s. I was born 1970. So I watched that when it first aired, and I loved every episode of that series, of that cartoon. And I remember watching the live action version. I don't know if you remember, they did a live action 70s Justice League with the good guys and the bad guys. And I was huge into Wonder Woman, Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. I was huge into Christopher Reeves as Superman.
Yep.
And then because I loved them, I went into comic books. And I started reading. I read all the Wonder Woman comic books, Superman comic books, Aquaman comic books. Those were my main three. I was never a huge Batman fan, which I know shocks a lot of people because Batman is so huge. But for me, I liked the truly good people.
Right.
Batman was always too gray for me.
Gotcha.
So I was always drawn to the good. But I definitely started at a very. I was probably 6 or 7 when I watched those cartoons, and it was everything. And I loved it. Marvel was not even in sight. It was all DC for me.
Wow. So you're DC Prime. That is really well. So not liking the darker stuff. So Zack Snyder is known for his darker movies. Yeah. So overall, like, what do you think about the plot of what Justice League, the Snyder Cut, turned out to be? And are you happy with it? What do you think?
Yes, I love this movie. I remember watching it, and I think I told you earlier before we started recording that I saw Justice League. I loved the first. Let me back up. Man of Steel. Yeah, loved it. Huge Superman fan. Loved the origin story of how they introduced this new Man of Steel. Really enjoyed it. Then they did Batman v Superman, which I never liked the idea of Batman fighting Superman, which never made sense to me. And the movie was fine. It was. I still enjoyed it. Still had my favorite character, Batman, Superman.
Yeah.
Still had my favorite character in it. And then when Justice League came out, I did watch it. I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater. It was, opening night. It was amazing,
Mhm.
and that was it.
Okay.
I've watched Man of Steel probably another 20, 30 times.
Mhm.
Because I really enjoyed it. But I have not revisited Batman v Superman or Justice League. So when this new version came out, I was going to try and watch it beforehand, but as you know, work was crazy,
Yeah.
and I just didn't have time to watch it. So I went into this watching it like it was the first time
Mhm.
seeing Justice League, because I only had little bits of memory of the original Justice League.
Now,
So yeah.
did you watch it all the way through?
I
Like
watched
one sitting?
Yes and no. Yes, I watched it with my friend Brian, and we would watch part one, and then I'd pause it. We'd get up, go to the restroom, grab a drink, and then we sit back down, watch part two. So we did it that way.
Mhm.
So we paused in between each part, which I thought was amazing.
Mhm.
I love the fact to me it felt like I was binging a really cool TV series.
Mhm.
A 6-episode TV series. And to me, it didn't feel like a 4-hour long movie, which can be a trudge to sometimes get through a 4-hour long movie. But if you think about being like, a really cool 6-part miniseries or limited series, that's how I looked at it. And that's how I think I enjoyed it more because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, so I actually watched it in 3 different sittings just because it was so darn long, and I also very much enjoyed this. I actually really enjoyed the Snyder Cut a lot more than the original theatrical release for a number of different reasons. But one of the big reasons was because as I was watching the theatrical release, it felt very blocky, and it felt like I was missing out on some things. And I'd read some of the background about, the fact that Zack Snyder had to exit the production to begin with, and how the studio, cut it down because they shot so much footage for the film that just didn't make it. And so the thing that I really, really appreciated about the Snyder Cut, even though it was quite long. I mean, I definitely, it took 3 long viewing sessions to get through it, but just, I felt I got the full depth of the story in a way that a lot of the superhero movies, don't usually allow to do. And
Yeah.
I think maybe that might be because because it was a fan pushed request creation. They allowed Zack Snyder to sort of go back and do everything that he originally wanted to do because the fans demanded it. But so looking at the Snyder Cut, Kenny, what were your favorite parts? Spoiler warning. By the way, so if you haven't watched it, go press pause on the stream right now and then go watch it. But spoiler warning, what was your favorite part? Well, what were some of your favorite parts of the movie?
I mean, I enjoyed the overall look of it. I think that was really cool. I think they really changed it, because I know Joss Whedon was trying to make it more of a Marvel, with the flashy colors. It was brighter, and as you mentioned, Snyder is not a bright person. He's a very dark everything, and he wanted to. What I loved about it is it matches Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman in tone. The coloring, it's much darker in complexity. It's just and I think my favorite part is what you actually touched on, was the fact that they expanded the stories. We got to know each character. Especially, I mean, I know we're going to talk about characters later, so I won't go into details about characters, but they expanded these characters that felt so, Wonder Woman had an intro movie. We knew who she was. They didn't have to do much with her. Batman, Superman, both of them had intro movies and was great. But we didn't know much about Flash and Cyborg, and we really didn't get much in the Whedon verse of these two characters. And in here, I feel like we really got these characters fleshed out. So that's one thing I really, really enjoyed about it. Of course, I love Superman, so I love seeing him in the black suit.
Yeah.
So. I mean, and because there's a reason for it. It's not just because he wants to wear black.
Right.
That suit absorbs sunlight better and faster and heals him. It's a healing suit. That's why he wears it in the comic book, and that's why he wore it here. And I love that they brought that back into it. I loved the action scenes here. I loved the fast, slow. With the fighting.
Yeah. Yes.
I know some people don't like that, but me, it looks comic bookish. And I like that aspect because these are comic book characters.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. So I loved, the opening scene with Wonder Woman, which is similar to the opening scene that, that actually the opening scene that changed actually, but the fight scene, the very first fight scene with Wonder Woman, I loved Zack Snyder's version of it better.
Yeah.
We saw her decimate that man, and before it would just cut, but now we know she disintegrated him because she blew out the entire building wall. I just kept thinking all the property damage that she's doing. But at least, she's saving people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just lots of little moments. I loved Lois. I loved Martian Manhunter.
You went there. You went there. Spoiler warning, everybody. Martian Manhunter makes 2 appearances.
Yes. And the first one was shocking because you didn't expect it.
Right.
But the second one, I love the second. I love that he just comes. He's such a, because I don't know a lot about him because he wasn't in the cartoons when I was younger.
Gotcha.
He was added later in like the 80s, I think. So I don't know a whole bunch about him other than what I've seen in like Supergirl and other movies and cartoons that he's been in. But I like his character. I hope I'm sure we'll discuss this later about a continuation of the series, but they definitely set up a lot of stuff, and I just know I like the overall. I love the fact that Flash had to turn back time.
Yep.
That whole scene was gorgeous. To save him. I love the fact that Steppenwolf was about to kill Cyborg, and Superman just stands there, and then axe just hits him on the shoulder, nothing, and he just blows on it, and it shatters. I mean, it's those little things that it was just so well done. I never felt like it was 4 hours. I sat there, I was glued to the TV. When the break came, I was happy to take a break and go to the bathroom and get a drink, but I was right back into it again. And I was right back into it. I didn't have to, no speed, no, my excitement was still there. So I enjoyed every minute of it. So.
Very cool. I just, for me, there were a couple of moments that really just stood out. For me, just the reimagining of the fight underneath Gotham Harbor. And from what I recall from the Joss Whedon version, it felt a lot more truncated. And also because we never really got a good sense in the Joss Whedon cut of what Steppenwolf was actually doing. We just got the sense that he was just sort of this big CGI bad that really didn't make a whole heck. That was just kind of there to beat everybody up. And then so to see that fight, and for the first time, minus Superman, to see the Justice League come together and do this epic fight, and also to use all of their various superpowers together as a team for the very first time, with Aquaman coming in at the end and saving the day to stop the water, and then Cyborg actually hacking in. Also all the extra stuff, Cyborg's backstory. Was really, really well done and added such meaning. And so Kenny, I'm more of a passive DC fan in general. And so I needed a lot more of that backstory as a more casual DC fan, and walking away from the film, I'm a much, much bigger fan of Cyborg as a character, really understanding like his motivations, where he comes from as a character after watching the Snyder Cut. Additionally, I think one of my absolute favorite things is the how they expanded upon the Age of Heroes back fight. Now in the Whedon movie that began it, so sort of give you context about like what Steppenwolf was doing. But not only were the visual effects improved upon in the Snyder Cut, it just felt like felt more epic. With the way that Darkseid cuts off the Lantern's hand. And then kills him. That's classic Zack Snyder violence. So that was a little bit out of place for I guess a broad mainstream release, but it played so well. And then just Zeus shooting lightning at Darkseid, and then Ares coming down with the big axe and putting that in his shoulder, and having it be David Thewlis.
I love that. Yes, the fact that it was him from Wonder Woman.
Yep.
I love that they tie those universes together.
Yep. Cool. And something that a lot of the other DC movies I don't think have done that great of a job in doing is sort of tying the universes together in a way that broadens and enriches the overall DCEU. Marvel does a very, very good job of that with their movies. Everything building and being interlocking and interconnected, and it's very, very cool. And this Snyder Cut, granted, it built upon, Man of Steel and then Dawn of Justice and now into the Snyder Cut, but it made the first Wonder Woman movie that much better to me. And honestly, it makes the Aquaman movie a lot better for me. And it really makes me sad that we're not going to get that Batfleck movie, because I actually really enjoyed the new version of Batman. Which
I totally agree with you, and that's unusual for me because I'm not, as I said, I'm not a big Batman fan. Loved him as Batman.
Which I think is a good segue. We talked a little bit about plot, but Justice League is a superhero team-up movie, and on the scale of an Avengers. And so we would be remiss if we did not talk about characters. So we might talk a little bit about this for a while because there are quite a few of them. But let's go character by character and talk about it. And so let's start off with your all-time favorite superhero, Kenny. The Man of Steel, Superman. What do you think about how he was portrayed in the Snyder Cut, and what do you think? Do you approve? Do you disapprove? Tell us.
Yeah. First of all, he doesn't come on until Act 5 or until Part 5, which I totally forgot. He came in so late into the movie. I mean, so you're already technically it's what he's in the last hour of that movie, or the last hour and 15 minutes of that movie. I mean, from the theatrical version, there wasn't a lot of change with his character. I mean, other than they expanded it a little bit. We had a little bit more time with Lois. The whole, being confused and fighting the Justice League was a slightly different, less jokey. It was more serious. I like that. I love the fact that, as I mentioned before, he walks through the ship and all these suits are opening up, and he chooses the black one.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted a little featurette on every single one of those suits. What are these for? It'll be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because you saw his original one, the one he wears in Man of Steel, but then you also saw the one that Zod wore, which is like the spacesuit gray one. That he had one of those. But then he had other suits in there that I had no idea what they were or where they were from. So that was cool. I enjoyed his interaction with Alfred. I know it's just a small little scene. That
was nice. Yeah,
but it was nice. That was an added scene that they added in there, which was really, really cool. I liked, I mean, the whole end. Yeah. But like I said, him stopping, and I love the fact that it wasn't just Superman who stopped Steppenwolf. Yeah. It was a team effort. Everybody, because in the final end, it's Aquaman sticking him with the trident, and then lifting him up, and then Superman, blasting him away, and then or throwing him into the tunnel, into the portal, and then Wonder Woman coming at the last second and chopping off his head. Yeah. So that whole sequence is amazing. The fact, especially when Superman was beating the crap out of Steppenwolf, and he takes his laser beams and he breaks one of the horns off, shoots it off with laser beams.
It's something interesting about Superman, and it's very similar in my view to the Incredible Hulk, because a lot of times in Marvel and DC with Superman and the Incredible Hulk, they are just such OP characters, overpowered characters, that the entire storyline of whatever is going on kind of revolves around how do we either neutralize Superman or Superman is neutralized and we have to bring him in because we can't defeat the big bad without him. And so it was similar in the Snyder Cut, but at the same time, it was we got the sense of why he was so important throughout the plot of the actual show, and I feel like we appreciated him when he finally came on board, and so I also really dug the way. And the other thing, which is kind of ominous, just the idea that in whatever potential future. That Superman, turns evil.
I'm so not happy about any of that.
Yeah, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? Or what may have happened? We'll get into that, I guess, in a little bit. But but just the idea, if Darkseid achieves the anti-life equation, and he corrupts Superman, and then the whole world is screwed. It was very, very neat
I love the fact that Lois Lane is the key. Yeah, if she dies, he will go bad. Right. That's what he's gone bad before in previous incarnations, and it's because of her death that causes him to go crazy and kill people. So there's potential there. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Wonder Woman. What do you think about her portrayal in the movie?
You know what? She's always amazing. Okay. She's gorgeous. She's a great actress. I love the way she how she carries herself as Wonder Woman. I loved her in her 2 movies that she had separately. To me, her character changed the least from the theatrical version to this version.
Mhm.
There was more of her, which was great.
Yeah.
We got her whole investigation into Darkseid, underneath Athens.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we got all that, like the information of who he is and why he's there. Loved all that. I liked. They still had the little flirtiness with Batman, which I'm fine with because that's what it was in the theatrical version.
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, she was the most steady character. She didn't change. She was great in the theatrical version. She was great in this version. I didn't feel like they expanded upon her character to it. Other than, I guess when Steppenwolf said, that he killed all the Amazon women.
Right.
And she had that kind of rage and
Liar.
yeah. I did like that part of it. But yeah, I mean, I loved her then. I still love her now. I didn't see a huge difference in her character really.
I actually really enjoyed Wonder Woman in the Snyder Cut a lot more than I enjoyed her in any of the other movies, including both of her standalone films. I felt that she had not just a central role, but you got a real sense for just, how powerful she was as a character, but also like the ideas that she like the ideas of love and being true to yourself, like actually, it feels a lot more tangible. And also the idea that Diana is the goddess of wisdom, I believe, in Greek mythology, and how in many ways, like she was sort of the light sort of pointing the way. And also, yeah, in that first fight scene too, the one thing I did notice was there were less gratuitous, sexualized shots of her, and it was just allowed her to be Wonder Woman without, seeing her butt. And I really thought that was truly excellent. And they also removed a lot of like the relationship subtext that was injected into the Whedon cut between her and Batman, which I was totally fine with. I didn't, we didn't really need that for the overall film. And just, I got to be honest, like watching Wonder Woman and the way that she was portrayed and the epic scale of all the things that she was doing. I mean, really, next to Superman, she's the second most powerful, out of all the heroes there. It made me sort of pine for a Zack Snyder directed Wonder Woman movie. I just thought he really, I don't know, as a hardcore fan of DC Comics himself, I think he might understand the character better than the previous directors have, and which is ironic because he's a male director. But I kind of felt, and this is sort of a hot take, but I kind of felt that Zack Snyder put forth, I think, the best version of Wonder Woman in this current incarnation than we have seen, and that was kind of unexpected to me. I mean, people let me know in the comments section if you agree or disagree with that hot take or not, but really, I dug Wonder Woman more in the Snyder Cut than I did in her two solo films, and that really, really stood out to me. And I want more. I want more of this sort of darkened universe Wonder Woman, and because I thought she was bright and shiny, and ultimately she's the one who kills Steppenwolf in the end too. So let's not forget that. She's the one who beheads him. So that's pretty exciting. What about Batman? What do you think about Batman?
I enjoyed Batman. I liked his story arc because I think it was a continuation from Batman versus Superman, where he's this begrudging, unwilling. He's done with it. He's done with the world. It's all over, And I like that we see this new version of him. You see his growth through Batman v Superman, and then this movie, and at the end where he's getting on the plane and he tells it's all about faith. I liked his story arc. He had a nice. I'm glad Zack was able to finish the story arc that he started. It got lost in Whedon. I'm not sure what happened there, but I liked, and I love Ben Affleck's portrayal. I think he's a great Bruce Wayne, and I think he's a great Batman. I think he does both of them well. Usually, it's the actors can either do one or the other. And I'm not saying he's my favorite, and he's the end all be all Batman.
Right.
But I think he did a really good job playing an older, more seasoned Batman.
I really liked him because he was funny. He was funny in the Whedon movie too, and Ben Affleck has a little bit of comedic chops, and I do appreciate that. But just the I'm rich, like he had those little asides with Flash, and it was always a Flash. It was always a Flash Batman thing that would always trigger the humor. But just kind of like he was, like when he first goes to Aquaman's, Reykjavik, or his Icelandic people, just the interplay, like when they're speaking in the different languages and he starts speaking in the language too, like just those little deadpan moments. I really honestly found that the humor of Batman charming. And then at the very end in the Nightmare Future, I found it rather ironic that he's talking to the Joker, who's compulsively laughing. And the entire movie, I felt like Batman was kind of the one who was mostly driving like the humorous elements of the movie. And at the end, he comes face to face with the Joker, who is this dark, sinister, sociopathic laugh. And for me, that kind of like, that was a really, really neat sort of a juxtaposition. That kind of was a thread through the entire movie. Even though, honestly, I didn't need that nightmare ending, it was sort of just like a wink at what could have been, if Warner's had let Zack Snyder have like the full scope of the Justice League movie that he wanted. It was nice, but I didn't quite need that. What about let's talk about Aquaman. What did you think about Aquaman?
You know what? I liked him. He was good. Again, he was more serious. I don't think he was as jokey. The Whedon version, definitely made him a little bit more jokey.
Yeah.
He had more quips and things, and here he was definitely serious. He didn't want the throne. And for me, I had a hard time because I'd already seen Aquaman movie, which came after this.
Right.
So I'm like, wait, how does he not know Mira? And how,
Yeah.
all these weird things because I loved him in his own movie. His movie was, I loved Aquaman movie. It was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he was to me a little more of a minor character. I didn't think he was, he had some great scenes, some great lines, some cool action shots.
Totally.
It was pretty much from, other than the humor part, he felt the same in both theatrical and.
For me, I totally hear you. He was a little underutilized, and I think that was okay. My question for you as a DC fan, the portrayal of sort of a brooding Aquaman, is that true to the comic book or some of the previous IP?
No.
Okay.
At least not the stuff I've read.
Okay.
The earlier stuff, he doesn't have the long hair. That's, he's the yellow hair, very, very short. He was never a brooding, big, huge, muscular dude.
Yeah. Almost a malcontent kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. Or, unwilling to take power, unwilling to take his rightful place. I think this was all control. Like I said, I haven't read the most current stuff, so I mean they could have. And I know he does get the longer hair and the more muscular body later on, but I didn't read any of the '90s or 2000s, so he could have changed. He could have changed his character. So I really can't tell you. But from my Aquaman from the '70s and '80s, he was not that way.
Totally different. Yeah. I kind of felt similarly because my biggest reference to Aquaman actually was the Super Friends show. Just like a little bit with you, and he always seemed kind of like a goody two shoes-ish character, and it's sort of in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. sort of reimagined Tony Stark as Iron Man, completely changing the way that character behaves, and now that Tony Stark Iron Man that we had from the Marvel movies is sort of present in everyone's mind as, that's Iron Man. He wasn't like that growing up, similarly, I kind of, and you know what though, and I love Jason Momoa, and he has some heritage in the Hawaiian Islands where I currently live, so I love that, and I'm very excited for Jason Momoa playing my favorite character in the Dune universe, Duncan Idaho, coming up at the end of the year, which we'll have to do another live stream about.
I'm sure you'll be doing, doing a live stream for that.
But I kind of, aside from the fact that he was necessary as brawn in order to be able to kill the bad guys in the end and sort of subdue, crazy Superman, he didn't really serve that much of a purpose. And my favorite things about the Aquaman character were his scenes with Volko. And with long hair Volko,
which were added. Yeah, those were nowhere to be seen in the theatrical version.
Yeah. So, I really dug that. And Mira was cool. Like actually, so I liked the additions of Mira and Volko and, the character of Aquaman and stuff. I didn't need him, but it's cool to have him there, but I didn't particularly need him. All right. Yeah. We talked a little bit about Cyborg, earlier on, and just about how his backstory was fleshed out. But that was kind of my POV on him. But what did you think about the expanded Cyborg?
Loved it. I love the fact that we find out that and I don't know if we knew this from the theatrical version. We may have that his body came from the cube, from one of one of those
Mother boxes.
Mother box. Thank you. I was like mother something. Mother boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it actually created him. So I love his connection to it.
Yep.
I loved how powerful he was. I couldn't figure out why his father made him so powerful that he can nuke anything. He can take, I mean, he must truly know his son is good to be able to give him that much power. And then, even the father says the hardest part is going to be what you do with it, not doing things with it. I like the little scene with, him helping that poor woman who was, hardworking and getting screwed left and right. And then she gets evicted and, he gives her the money, which was really a nice, it shows you where his heart is.
Yep.
He was a little too broody for me.
Okay. Okay.
Just a little bit. He just was so bitter and happy all the time. And I'm like, dude, I understand it. Your dad, he made you into a robot, and I don't know why you don't think you can go outside. There's people flying around. It's not like you're going to be the most odd thing in the world. Right. I just, he had daddy issues. Obviously, his dad didn't come to his games, and his dad was busy all the time. And,
right.
But I love the fact that they tie him in. That's my main thing, is that they tie him into. He's the heart of the story. He's the whole about the boxes and controlling them and pulling them apart. And if they didn't have him, there's no way they would have been able to pull those boxes apart.
That was so. That was the thing. Looking at the Joss Whedon movie, what was missing was like the why, and the why was Cyborg. Which is really because you got to remember. I don't quite remember how it played out in the Whedon movie to even bring back Superman. But the only reason why they know that the mother boxes can reassemble matter is because they did it to Cyborg.
Nope.
So
in the theatrical version, there's nothing. It's just, we can use the box. Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Of course. Of course. It's a magical box. It will bring people back to life. Yeah. That was the reason for it. Here, you're right. They knew exactly. Well, if it could do that to him, guess what? We can use it to bring back Superman.
Yep. And then
I love that.
Yep. And as you say, Kenny, at the end, in the Whedon movie, you had the big three heroes physically prying apart like the three mother boxes to defeat Steppenwolf at the end. Whereas in this one, it was so much more intricate with the way that he had to hack into the mother boxes and then face his own like inner demons. And the mother boxes were lying to him, and only then did they sort of desynchronize. Yeah. And then Superman could run in there and help to pull them apart. Like only after that had happened. It was really, really well done. And just the extra stuff in the Snyder Cut like made it so much more watchable and enjoyable. And in addition to giving, I'm going to get woke here for a second, but giving like a strong minority character, like basically to be the impetus like for all of the major action in the film. And I really, really appreciated all of that as it was going along. So that's quite excellent. All right. A couple more characters we got to talk about. And this is one that a lot of my friends are a little weary of, but The Flash. Now, I'm wearing his T-shirt today because I happen to like the color red. But people in my internet circles have kind of not enjoyed the portrayal of the Flash, thinking he's too, I don't know, kiddie or what have you. What do you think about the Flash? Especially also because the Flash is, he had a TV show recently, and they're about to launch a multiverse Flash movie.
Yeah, I am totally not with your friends. I loved him. I thought he's the nerd. He's me. If I met Superman, if I had powers and I met Superman and Batman, I'd be geeking out just as much as he did. And I love that aspect of him. He to me was the humor of the show. He was. Sorry, I'm reading comments as well.
Brian, hey, you're with Kenny. That's good.
Yeah, he's the one I watched it with yesterday.
Hey Brian, aloha. Good to see you.
So yeah, he was to me. He was the comic relief. His scenes were funny. He was always had I identified with him. I liked the portrayal. I thought it was really well done. I loved his nice, sweet moments with his dad. I loved the extended scene with Iris. Yeah, and we finally get to see Iris West, which is obviously his love I mean, she will be. There's fingers crossed they'll do a Flash movie. And
they're supposed to do like a whole multiverse with Flash movie, like anyway, go on. Sorry.
So I mean, I'm glad they were able to introduce her, and I love that scene with the hot dogs flying around, and and him saving her, and I loved how he goes through the whole scene was great, and I'm glad they because it was already obviously done. It wasn't a reshoot; it was already shot. It just got cut from the original version. I'm glad they restored it and put it in. I don't know. I'm more interested in hearing why your friends didn't, or if you didn't like him as much, his portrayal.
Well, I really dug Ezra Miller's performance as Flash. I really liked his introduction scene. The way they, through visual storytelling, the way that they explain his powers, and just the sense that you get that if you're moving at close to the speed of light, everything else is moving so much more slowly around you. So it opens the doorway towards what time travel, how one in a science fiction universe might be able to actually achieve time travel, which as a science fiction fan, I was like, brilliant. I totally just loved all of that. I really loved in his first scene when he is going to save Iris from the car crash, he moves so fast that his sneakers explode off of his feet.
Yeah.
And also the humor of grabbing the hot dog and just the fact that the character, I'm going to use this. And, it's kind of a sight gag because, he's pulling a wiener out of the air to put into his pocket. And I'm like, what are you going to do with this, Zack Snyder? This is going to be gross, isn't it? And then it ends up being, oh no, he's going to use it on the dogs at the end so he can get the job as the dog walker. And I was like, all right, very, very good. You made me think one thing, but it was actually like a really, really smart joke. The other thing, it was a very subtle thing earlier on in the film when Flash goes to see his father in prison, and his father, Billy Crudup, really great performance from Billy Crudup, but tells Flash to make his own future, sort of planting the seeds for later on what happens when at the end of the movie he has to use the Speed Force to go faster than the speed of light to go back in time.
Which I love.
Good.
He saved everybody.
Yep.
He saved the world. The world was gone. It blew up.
Yep, exactly. But because go ahead.
Yep. No, you go. No.
Because he actualized his power to the fullest, he was able to go ahead and actually make that happen. And that, of course, opens the doorway to, all the infinite amount of universes that could happen if one choice or one thing happens differently. And so it's very, very excited. Now, my friends, I'm not a big fan of the Flash character. I think he's awesome. I watched the early 1990s
John Wesley Snipes. John Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Yep. And I remember when Mark Hamill, was in that, and I watched the first season and a half of the Flash CW. Sorry, the Flash CW show with Barry Allen, and really dug it while I was watching it. But I'm more of just like with many DC properties, I'm more of a passive Flash fan. My friends they felt like, and this is also some social media vitriol now that we live in this wonderful, I don't like this kind of world. They was like, I didn't like what they did to his character. I totally undercut him from the comic books. And I was like, okay, I actually enjoyed him.
Yeah. I don't know much about I do have a few Flash comic books, and I remember reading them, but this was like in the early 80s, and I didn't continue with it. So I really don't know what he was like in the comic book. So they may have completely changed him, But even in the TV series, in the Flash, the current one, he's kind of a dorky, awkwardly, socially awkward kind of guy. And I like that. I like that aspect of it. I see myself in him. Of all the characters, I would like to be Superman. I'm not Superman. I'm more like Barry, the Flash.
Absolutely. So, he's a lot more identifiable. Yeah. And, something else which I thought, just because we are about to enter into a Flash multiverse, and we're going to get the Michael Keaton Batman, et cetera, out of this new Flash movie, kind of just underscoring the difference in between television show acting and movie star acting, just how subtly and how expertly I felt like the Billy Crudup Ezra Miller scene sort of just really, in that one scene they had through the glass, gave you so much of a doorway into the brain of Barry Allen and how he behaved and all the things that he believed in the ways that the CW show was fun, and they definitely touched on all the ideas of Barry Allen and his father that exist in the comic books. But it was just so much more, saturated with meaning and impactful, in the film. And I really, really I really dug that. So going forward, it looks like we're going to get potentially that the CW Flash might actually be in the new Ezra Miller movie too. So
I know Ezra was in the Flash.
Yep, he had his cameo.
The Flash,
yeah. So hopefully we'll get to see all of that, but just the cinematic scope of it all was really neat, and it's going to be like Flashpoint is going to be the movie coming out of that. So I've seen the cartoon movie of that, so I'm very excited to see what they do with that. All right, so we've talked about all of the good guys. So we should probably talk a little bit about the bad guys before we talk in broader context about Justice League. So Steppenwolf. Now, let me just get started on this and say the Whedon Steppenwolf was doo-doo. I really thought like his look was dumb. Like as much as I like, a Kieran Hines as an actor, like it felt sophomoric, but the way that Zack Snyder, redid the CGI for him and the way that they gave him like motivation, just really made the character, and also the armor and the way that the armor animated and just all the various fight scenes building upon the grandeur that was Steppenwolf. It took it from, I watched the Whedon movie and it was like, who the heck is this guy and why should I care? Into being like, this guy is super duper powerful, but he's afraid of that guy. Why? And it made it just that much more enriching and like made me want to watch a million YouTube videos about the history of Steppenwolf and Darkseid. So, but what did you think about Steppenwolf?
Yeah, it's funny is that I knew the general shape of him in the theatrical version. I couldn't remember exactly what he looked like. So when I saw the new version, I mean, he's gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous looking. Effects wise, he looks so alien and so evil and powerful, and I liked that version of him. I love the fact when he's hit with arrows and all he does is kind of shiver and all those things twist and break all the arrows off. It's so cool. I mean, but I watched a video today of the differences between the two to kind of get my head around, because like I said, I haven't watched the theatrical in many years, and I saw a video of Steppenwolf there, and it was like, how did I even like him back then? Because he doesn't look any other than the shape of his head. He still has the horns there. He looks completely different. Yeah,
like a barbarian versus like some super duper space like armor guy. It was
completely different. But yeah, you're right. I love the fact that he had, compared to like Cyborg on the hero side, he had the most story growth. We understand why he came here, why he's after the boxes, what he wants to do with them, why he's doing it. He wants to get back in the good graces. Obviously, something happened, with him and Darkseid, and he's trying to get back in his good graces. So he's taking Earth, and then he finds, that Earth is the holder of the
anti-life equation.
Yeah, the anti-life equation, and he's like, "Oh, this is it. This is my in." Yeah, I found it for him. I'm going to get all 3 boxes and present this planet to. I mean, there's motivation, there's reasoning, you understand, it makes sense. It's not just some bad guy. For some reason, he wants the 3 boxes. You're not quite sure why he wants the 3 boxes, what he's going to do with them. What happens when they all, none of that is in the Whedon. It makes he's just a bad guy to be a bad guy. He's a very shallow bad guy.
He's so silly.
Here, yes, but here there's a reason. Yep. He's an adversary, perfect adversary. If they had just him and not Darkseid, and we knew why he was doing it for Darkseid, but we never saw Darkseid, I would have been content. Right. Because he's such a formidable bad guy for the Justice League. Yeah. Yeah. I thought he was probably my second favorite, biggest change to this movie was the bad guy was just so much better.
Well, a good villain gives a movie depth, right? It gives all the characters something to fight against, and it really fills out everything that you'd ever want to have happen in the movie. And with the recut, adding in the scenes, making him less silly, it really expanded that and made the movie. The movie was filled out, yes, by Cyborg giving purpose to the to the plot, and then Darkseid as a credible threat. Steppenwolf as a credible threat really. I mean, it made the movie just that much more transcendent of an experience as far as like a comic book movie goes. Yeah. The other thing, just I want to touch upon this, and that is in the Whedon movie, there's a scene with like, with Steppenwolf like talking to the mother box, like, "Mother, what's wrong?" And I remember seeing that in the theater and just completely just like laughing, in the way that like I laughed at the movie Battlefield Earth. Like it was just so silly that I was like, I can't believe I'm here watching this, and what a disgrace. Whereas in this one, it's like I would be afraid of Steppenwolf. The fact that he can very easily beat Aquaman and an army of Amazons, and it takes the full might of all of the Justice League minus Superman just to battle him to a standstill.
Yeah.
That all just came together, and the boom tubes were so much cooler. And then when he's taking the mother boxes and like he takes him to Chernobyl, and he's like, toxic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like those little things, and in a way that just would have came across as silly in the Whedon. The way that Zack Snyder filled out that character was just fantastic. All right, we talked about Steppenwolf. Now the big baddie is we're never really going to get to see him. It doesn't look like, unfortunately, in his own movie. A la Thanos got his moment to shine in Infinity War. But Darkseid, what did you think about Darkseid and his portrayal?
I'm glad we got him. I mean, in the theatrical version, there's nothing of him. So I thought he looked good. He seemed menacing, and the fact that Steppenwolf was so afraid of him, you don't even have to see him be evil.
Yeah.
He's bad. If this extremely bad person is afraid of that guy, then obviously he's like 1,000 times worse than this guy. So I mean that was, I like those little moments. You don't even have to see. I mean, his battle scene. I love the fact that they replaced him in the age, the Battle of Ages.
Yeah.
It was Darkseid instead of Steppenwolf that was battling everybody. I love when Ares takes the axe and goes right into his shoulder.
So cool.
The blood. And you're like, it does show that he's vulnerable, because that knocked him out. That was it. They succeeded by taking him out. He didn't die, obviously, but I liked. Would I like to see more of him? I don't know. No, I think this was more Steppenwolf. This was the prelude to the big bad. The next movie or the movie after that, because this was supposed to be a trilogy initially. So I think the third movie would have been great to have him as the Armada arrives and the battle takes place. That would have been nice. I thought they used them sparingly in the right places. It added enough tension. It made it a bigger threat. This was a very dark movie, and it was not. There was no happy. It was all the world was going to end. And it ends with even a darker moment. Yes, they won, but guess what? He's coming.
Yeah,
and
the dreams of the dark future.
Yeah,
ominous
it
on
may
the
come
horizon.
reality. Yeah, this is what everything's pointing to. This future. Yeah. Hopefully, it won't happen, but it was. Yeah, I mean, I think they used him just right. I was very happy with him. His look, his design, his voice, seeing all that it was well done.
Yeah, the world building is for me what Darkseid brought to the Justice League movie, because again, without him in the Whedon movie, it was very small and silly and like, why the heck are we all here? Having Darkseid, giving the context in the Age of Heroes fight, and we see that really awesome expanded fight with all the old gods and the lanterns and everybody coming together to fight it. It felt very much like some of the better elements of Game of Thrones. I know you're not a big Game of Thrones person, Kenny, but a lot of that like fight scene was kind of like what I was hoping like the final battle in Game of Thrones might end up being, and just the fact that he was this casual observer from afar and understanding that Earth is a small place in this gigantic universe that has old gods and Kryptonians and all those sorts of things, but yet we're confined just to our, planet with the yellow sun, with his Kryptonian guardian. Like, what badness can come our way? It's really, again, unfortunate that Warner Brothers isn't going to sort of allow for to have that moment that Thanos got to have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and have his own movie and sort of exert all of his will. And so, but in the way that I said, Steppenwolf filled out the movie and a great villain, really makes the movie like truly great. Just the fact that we have the idea that there's a bigger, badder villain that's on the horizon that the bad guy was taking his orders from. And also we get to see Apocalypse in the background, with like what was that Granny Goodness, aka Elizabeth Warren, who is sitting there with the staff in the background. That was a bad joke. But having her there in the background, and just with all the other parademons, and there's more to this universe, and that really made me have more admiration, I guess, for DC Comics, in general. And so, I'm pretty stoked about all of that, and I really hope that when Zack Snyder and Jim Lee are supposed to release some comic books that are going to be the continuation of the story from the Snyder Cut.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see those and to see the sort of the battle and to see the universe wrap up the way that this movie kind of leaves us wanting for more, which is excellent. Yeah. Okay, all right. We've been talking about characters for a little bit, so this was a very interesting movie for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, it was a recut, a rogue cut that went mainstream, which is really, really neat. But the way that it was cut together, and when you watch it, it was episodic. In the movie, title cards came up in between sort of, all the very various phases of the plot. And it screamed to me that originally it was a film that should have maybe been released as a limited series, a la like the Watchmen series, or, like Mad Men, or something along those lines, where we get, 25 minutes and then another 25 minutes. So I guess, what do you think about that? And do you think it would have benefited to be broken up into like WandaVision, like was released every week? Would it have been better off if you'd just seen it week to week, or were you happy that you got to see it as a 4-hour long Gone with the Wind, but with superheroes?
It was supposed to be 6. It was a limited series. It started that way, and then went back to a movie, and then went back to a limited series, and then they finally just decided they were going to release it as a 4-hour movie. I don't know if I would have liked it more enjoyable. After coming off of WandaVision, I loved WandaVision. I love the fact that we got 20 to 30 minutes, and then we had to wait a whole week, an agonizing week, for another 20 to 30 minutes, and then we had to wait an agonizing week for another. And you had that time to theorize and try to figure out what's going on, come up with
text your friends.
Yeah. I mean, that was truly, if there were water coolers, that was a water cooler show where you talked about it the next day with everybody and came up with what you think is going to happen next. I don't know if the formatting of this would have worked the same way. I would have been content if it would have done part 1, and that was episode 1, and we had to wait a week for part 2. I would have been perfectly fine with that. I enjoy it. Because there's such a limited series, like with WandaVision, it's only 9 hours, or not even 9 hours. It's only 9 episodes. Yeah. You could go through it in a one sitting, 6 hours, and it's done. And then and that's it. So at least if you're watching it weekly, you get 6 weeks of enjoyment. You get to theorize about it and plan stuff out and have watch parties, and it's such a grander thing. Do I think this would have benefited from it? I don't think so. I don't think it was written that way to be seen. I mean, ultimately, I think that's why HBO decided, well, we're just going to release it as one big long movie, because yes, each part was a good stopping point, which I'm glad, like I said earlier, I'm glad they did that, because it did give people time to pause it, take a breath, go do something, and with you watch several parts, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do stuff. I'll come back to it and watch, a few more. That was great. And you didn't have to kind of decide where you're going to stop it. It said, oh yeah, the story was wrapping down. This is a good point to stop. And then it picked right back up, I did like that. I thought it was well done the way it was presented to us. Obviously, they did it for a reason, and I think I'm glad they did do that. In the end, I'm glad it was one long 6-piece movie rather than a TV series. But I would have been happy with a limited series as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now I echo a lot of your sentiments. Maybe it just speaks to like my attention span these days, or just how busy we are in life. I didn't literally have a 4-hour chunk to just sit there and watch it straight through. I was unable to plan for that. So in that respect, I was very glad that they had the title card, so I could, as you said, press pause. And I do kind of. I missed a bit of the, we're living in COVID-19 time still. So the communal watching experience is still something that's very, very shared. So over the past few days, I've been texting with friends, have you seen it? And a lot of my friends who aren't so nerdily inclined as we are, like, it's 4 hours long, bro. I don't know if I can take that. And I'm like, dude, just give it a watch. Tell me if you like, stuff like that. And so I think it actually would have, here's what I would like to see. I'm glad they released it all in one chunk, because it's always fun to binge watch something and to know that it's there and to not have to agonize over it. It would be fun, though, if HBO Max would line it up similarly to how Disney Plus did with WandaVision and put each of the different segments sort of like in a row.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, you could do it now. I mean, like you said, you can watch it when part 1 ends and part 2 starts. You hit stop, and then you go back to it the next day and watch it. But you're right. It would have been nice if they had it all in one big movie, and then they had it all in chapters. Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to watch it that way, or if you wanted to watch it as one big long thing, because you're right, it's daunting. But if you know that the first half is only 37 minutes, I could knock that out lunchtime.
Exactly.
And then, the other one is only 47 minutes for part 2. I could do, And then in the end, you watch the entire thing, I agree. That would have been nice to have it that way too.
And something else that really, I watched the first 2 back to back, and then I stopped and had to go and do something. I really dug watching the first 2, and because the second episode, the second part is when we get that big Age of Heroes fight when Wonder Woman, takes the arrow to Athens and it opens it up, and then we get that. We get that backstory. So I liked having the time to reflect upon that and just think to myself, gosh, that was really, really cool, and I really, really dug that too. So, but it can go either way. And it's true, Kenny, this was not originally conceived of as a limited series. It was conceived of as really a movie and a half, with all the cutscenes. And so, it doesn't need to be cut up. I think I would have appreciated it more if it was episodic and released week to week. And I'm not sure if HBO Max might have enjoyed that too, just with keeping viewers coming back on a week-to-week basis. Because remember, HBO Max is making up for all of Warner Brothers releases that aren't coming out in the theaters due to COVID. And so everything that is digital is a learned behavior. So with every week, if they were releasing a new episode of the Snyder Cut, you're training people to come back and press play on that again. So I don't know if that was a good decision business-wise necessarily for HBO. All right, we sort of talked about the next 2 topics, so I'm going to jump to our final topic, which is so given the way that the Snyder Cut happened, which was Zack Snyder set out, he wrote and directed the movie and then had to leave for sort of tragic reasons, and then it was decided to be given to Joss Whedon, who then finished the movie, and then there were significant, studio notes, and they ended up recutting the movie and made it kind of a jumbled mess of a film.
They reshot like 75% because Joss, what I've read, I don't know how true it is that Joss wasn't going to give a full director's credit unless he reshot 75% of it.
Politics.
So he went and reshot a lot of it. Just to
and that required Mustache Superman to come in and all that.
They did such a better job on the Zack Snyder removing the mustache. Technology in 3 years, man, was
oh, for sure. But so the public saw Justice League. The internet went crazy about how bad. It was not a very well received movie by critics or by the internet, quite frankly. And so there was sort of this clamoring, this internet campaign that happened, including, I believe it was at a New York Comic-Con when Zack Snyder himself revealed how he would have actually ended his cut of the Justice League movie. And that built momentum, finally allowing for, Warner Brothers to say, all right, go ahead, recut your movie, reshoot what you need to, and go ahead and put it together. Basically turning a rogue cut of a film into this new cool pop culture phenomenon. So this is kind of a new thing. This is kind of the first time in a mass market sort of a way that a director has been allowed to re-release so quickly after the theatrical release came out, like an Alan Smithy cut or whatever. Something comparable, although the director was the original 1984 Dune movie, which David Lynch cuts, and then the studio went back and recut a 4-hour-long version against the will of David Lynch, and then released that later as a quote-unquote Alan Smithy cut of the movie. That's the only kind of thing I can think of where there has been sort of like a movie and then a pop culture recut. But what do you think about sort of this meta era where fans demand a rogue cut to come out? Like, is this a good thing?
I don't know. When I saw this question, I really debated on which side of the fence I was going to fall on.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm happy they did it. I think you yell loud enough and they hear you and they do it. With this case, I think the fact that he tragically had to leave because of his daughter's suicide. Which there's a scene, I don't know if you caught it. There's a billboard for the suicide. Yeah, something. I wrote down my notes that "You Are Not Alone" is on the billboard, and then it has an afsp.org website, which is the suicide prevention.
That's awesome.
Website. Yeah, it was such a subtle moment, but it was a very sweet moment. But yeah, for that reason, he would have finished this movie, I think. If it may have been a different movie because he had to cut it down to like 2.5 hours.
Right,
right. There would no way there'd be a 4-hour release in the theater. Even though I guess Lord of the Rings technically did DVD release of the 4-hour versions of their movies. Anyways, yes. So I am thankful and glad that they allowed him to go back and do his original version of it. Now, if it was a success, there'd be no way they'd let him go back.
Right, right.
The fact that it failed on so many different levels, they're like, well, okay, well, let's give them. They spent another like $200 million on this movie on top of I don't know how many millions.
180 million, however much,
or more than that. I mean, I'm sure they spent $500 million on this movie.
Crazy.
Total, Crazy. So, I mean, they had that much faith in it that it would do well, and because I don't know. I'm not a big fan of fans uproaring and going against, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So Star Wars fandom has been kind of toxic with all the new movies. I enjoyed the new movies. It's not what I would have done with Luke Skywalker's character. It's not what I would have done with the story. But you know what? I'm not telling the story. I've been there since 6 years old watching Star Wars. I'm going to be there at 99 watching whatever Star Wars comes out and still loving it. It doesn't matter what the story is. So, I don't want. Yeah, it's hard. I'm caught because I'm glad they made it. I'm glad fans balked about it and fought and got Zack, cleared the way for him to do it. But also, I don't think studios should be at the whim of the fans either. But this case was good. This was a good. Like I said, I think there were stipulations because the fact that he started it, he didn't leave on his own will. It wasn't because they hated his cut, they hated this.
Or because he did something bad.
Nothing. Yes, it was unfortunate circumstances where he had to take a step back from his work to deal with his family and the loss. And so, I'm glad they gave this to him and allowed him to tell the story. That to me would be, that for this case, yes, I'm glad it was a good idea. I'm glad they did it. But for normal stuff, I don't think fans should be able to dictate what they, they don't like with the whole, they're talking. It's all rumors that they're going to trash the last 3 Star Wars movies and make new ones. I'm like, I mean, they can make more Star Wars, but that story's done. Just let it be. You didn't like it. It's unfortunate, but that's there's people who love it. Totally. The new generation, just like with the prequels, people hated the prequels. Now they love them compared to the sequels. And my niece and nephew love the prequels. Because that's the one they grew up with. So I don't know. I'm on both ends. I can lean one way or the other. For this, yes. This, I'm glad the fans screamed loud enough. Warner Brothers listened and gave Zack another chance to finish his movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be by a case-by-case basis because, looking back on the other time in my recollection where this happened, like I mentioned before, was with Dune, when, the De Laurentises went back and recut all the lost footage from Dune into this, almost 4-hour-long movie that is very difficult to watch. So much so that David Lynch demanded that they take his name off of the cut that they re-released as the 4-hour-long version. Despite the fact it was truer to the source IP from a linear narrative sense, it was not as good, in my opinion, as the 1984 movie that David Lynch cut down. So, these things have happened before. It's very, very rare that they do, but it really depends upon the piece of art. It's subjective as for the piece of art. I think, as you do, Kenny, it is really, really cool that they were able to get this done. And quite frankly, the vision that Zack Snyder had for this Justice League movie was far superior than the one that came out of Warner Brothers and the Joss Whedon movie, and with all the ego and all that sort of reshoots and things going on there, just to get a $1 billion movie, out there. And so, in many ways, the service was to the fan for this reboot, this complete recut. And in this particular case, the instinct of the fan is the proper one. Now, I agree. I don't think they should go back and recut, the Rise of Skywalker, with all the original footage that they may or may not have shot, and for how they originally wanted it to end, because that's in the past, and so and I don't see how any recut could make that movie any better, or quite frankly, I can only see them making it worse overall, But because of the way, I guess, DC sort of came together, and because of the way that these Justice League movies, and also the fact that Zack Snyder made 2 movies beforehand that sort of led up into all this, there was already this rich, singular vision that was waiting to be put together, that just for a tragic reason wasn't able to come together. And so it is very apt in this case. And so going forward, I really don't want to see, fans always getting their way and winning these petitions. But, in the future, could it happen where a similar set of circumstances and honestly a better narrative vision where it exists, like in the actual shot footage? Yeah, sure. Why not? But for the most part, I think this might be a bit of a unicorn where the fans get their way.
I agree.
And anything better.
Yeah.
Well, Kenny, we've been talking now for a little bit more than an hour, and so I want to thank you very, very much for joining me on this inaugural live stream. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, yeah, this is great. You can have me back anytime.
Kick ass, man. So tell our audience members where they may find you, how they can support your work.
Yes.
All that.
Cool. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be your first guest on this show. I had a great time, even being live. I wasn't as nervous and crazy as I thought it was going to be. Yes, I am a podcaster. I've been podcasting for 15 years. You can find my podcast at geekyfanboyproductions.com. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me anywhere, any of the social medias. As soon as they come out, I grab them. I am at Geekyfanboy, GeekyFanboy. If you search that, you'll always find me. Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias, TikTok, all those things. You can find me. I do have a TikTok right now, which is I just started and I'm heavily promoting it. I am a toy collector as well. And I have probably, about 20 to 30,000 action figures, toys and accessories. And I have a whole bedroom. I have a 2-bedroom place, and one of the bedrooms is nothing but toys, and they're spilled out into my hallway and down the stairs. And but anyways, I share my toy collection. It's called Kenny's Collection on TikTok. So if you just look up Kenny's Collection, it's Kenny's with an S and then collection. You can find it there. But yeah, all my information, like I said, if you go to Geeky Fanboy Productions, it has all my information there. That's the easiest thing to do. But yeah, thank you again. I appreciate this, and this was fun. It was such an improvement over the. I can't say I liked it more. It was just a totally different movie than the original.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this live stream today. If you aren't watching it live, thank you very much for tuning into this entire broadcast on YouTube. Check out my blog, which is a Sign Cosign Tangent.com. You can just check out the description for all those links there. And yeah, please hit like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and help me grow an audience, and we can bring you some more fun content as time goes on, because there's a lot of fun things happening. In addition to, the Sopranos movie is coming out. I'm going to do a review for that. And, for me, the big movie coming out this year is Dune, also going to be on HBOMax. So I'm going to be doing some live streams in accordance with that. And, hopefully some other geeky, fun stuff just like this one. So again, if you like this, please like and subscribe. And I guess that'll be it, everybody. So have a good day, evening, night, morning, whatever it is for you. And we shall talk to you soon. Take good care.
See ya.